The year was 2387. Humans had spread across the stars. They built cities on distant planets. They made friends with alien races. They also made enemies. Connor Hayes sat in the pilot's seat of his old cargo ship. The ship was called the Dustrunner. It was not a pretty ship. The paint was chipped. The engines made strange noises. But it flew, and that was enough for Connor. He was 28 years old. He had brown hair that was always messy. His eyes were green like the forests of Earth, a planet he had only seen in pictures. He was born on a space station. He grew up between the stars. Flying cargo ships was the only life he knew. Tonight, he was hauling medical supplies to a mining colony. It was a simple job. Easy money. Nothing exciting. Then the engine exploded. Red lights filled the cockpit. Alarms screamed in his ears. Connor grabbed the controls and fought to keep the ship steady. Smoke poured from the back of the vessel. The whole ship shook like it was going to fall apart. Come on, Connor said through his teeth. He looked at the navigation screen. There was only one planet close enough to land on. His blood went cold when he saw the name. Vethros Prime. The homeworld of the Vethrani. Humans called them vampires. They were tall and pale. They had red eyes and sharp teeth. They drank blood to survive. Not animal blood. The blood of thinking creatures. For centuries, they had hunted humans. They saw people as nothing more than food. The border wars of 2341 had ended the open fighting. Both sides agreed to stay away from each other. Humans did not go to Vethrani space. Vethrani did not come to human space. It was a simple rule. Connor was about to break it. He had no choice. The Dustrunner was dying. If he did not land soon, he would die in the cold darkness of space. At least on the planet, he had a chance. A small chance, but still a chance. The ship fell through the atmosphere. Fire wrapped around the hull. Connor held on tight and prayed to whatever gods might be listening. The ground came up fast. Too fast. He pulled the emergency brake and felt the ship slam into the dirt. Everything went black. When Connor opened his eyes, he was still alive. His head hurt. His chest hurt. Everything hurt. But he was breathing. That was something. He climbed out of the ruined ship and looked around. The planet was dark. Very dark. The sun had set, and the sky was filled with strange purple clouds. In the distance, he could see lights. A city. Connor checked his supplies. He had food for 3 days. Water for 2. His plasma pistol was still on his hip. Most importantly, he had his repair kit. If he could find the right parts, he could fix the engine and leave this planet. He started walking toward the city. The streets were empty when he arrived. The buildings were tall and made of black stone. Red lanterns hung from the walls, giving everything a bloody glow. Connor kept his hand on his pistol. His heart beat fast in his chest, till he found a market in the lower part of the city. It was open even at night. Strange creatures sold strange goods. None of them were human. Some of them looked at Connor with hungry eyes. He tried not to make eye contact. An old alien with gray skin pointed him toward a parts dealer. Connor thanked him and moved quickly. He found the shop and bought what he needed. The dealer did not ask questions. Connor did not offer answers. He paid in universal credits and left, but then he took a wrong turn. The streets all looked the same. The red lanterns made it hard to see. Before he knew it, Connor found himself in a place he did not recognize. The buildings here were older. The lanterns were dimmer. There were no other people around. A sign on the wall showed a symbol. A circle with a crown inside. Connor did not know what it meant, but he knew it was bad. He turned to leave. She was already there. She stood in the middle of the street. She was tall taller than any human woman Connor had ever seen. Her hair was silver white and fell past her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. Her skin was pale as snow. Her eyes were red, bright red, like fresh blood. She wore a long black cloak with that same symbol, the circle with the crown. Her lips were dark, and when she smiled, Connor could see her fangs. "Do you want to die, human?" Her voice was cold. It cut through the silence like a knife. Connor felt his legs go weak. Every part of him screamed to run. But he knew that would be pointless. She would catch him in seconds. He looked at her markings again. The symbol on her cloak. He had seen it before, in old war records. It belonged to the Archons, the 7 rulers of the Vethrani, the most powerful vampires in existence. He had accidentally crossed the path of a Vethrani Archon. Connor swallowed hard. His throat was dry. His hands were shaking. But something inside him refused to look away. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stupidity. Either way, he kept his eyes on hers. "I got lost," he said. His voice was steady, even though his heart was pounding. "My ship broke down. I'm just looking for parts so I can leave." The Archon moved closer. She walked like water flows, smooth, silent, dangerous. She circled around him, studying him like a cat studies a mouse. "You know who I am," she said. "It was not a question, I can guess, and yet you do not kneel." Connor felt a spark of something. Anger, maybe. Or just the stubborn nature that had kept him alive this long. "Where I come from," he said, "we do not kneel to anyone." The Archon stopped moving. For a moment, Connor thought she was going to kill him right there. He could see her muscles tense. Her eyes grew brighter. The air around her seemed to get colder. Then she laughed. It was not a warm laugh. It was cold and sharp, like ice breaking. But there was something real in it. Surprise, maybe. Or amusement. "Interesting," she said. "Most humans beg at this point. They cry. They offer me everything they have. But you just stand there. Would begging save my life? No. Then why waste my last words on something useless?" The Archon studied him for a long moment. Her red eyes seemed to look right through him. Connor felt like she could see everything. His fears, his hopes, his beating heart. "You have 1 hour," she said finally. "Find your parts and leave this world. If I see you again, I will not be so merciful." If I see you again, I will not be so merciful. She stepped aside. Connor did not argue. He walked past her, forcing himself to move slowly. He wanted to run. Every part of his body wanted to run. But he kept walking, one step at a time. He did not look back. Behind him, Valeria Cross watched the human disappear into the darkness. She had lived for over 400 years. She had killed thousands. She had ruled with an iron hand. But tonight, for the first time in decades, she felt something new. Something she had almost forgotten. Curiosity. Connor ran through the dark streets of the Vethrani city. His legs burned. His lungs ached. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Not until he reached his ship. The hour she gave him felt like minutes. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every sound made his heart jump. He expected to feel her cold hands on his neck at any moment, but she did not come. He found the Dushmer where he had left it. The ship was damaged, but not destroyed. Connor worked fast. His hands moved automatically. He replaced the broken parts. He sealed the cracks. He did not think about anything else. Just the work. Just survival. 3 hours later, the engines came back to life. Connor laughed out loud. It was a tired laugh, filled with relief. He climbed into the pilot's seat and flew away from Vethros Prime, as fast as the old ship could go. He did not look back. The next 3 weeks passed slowly. Connor returned to his normal routes. He delivered cargo. He slept in cheap hotels. He ate bad food. Life went back to the way it was before. But something had changed. Connor could not forget her face. Those red eyes. That cold voice. The way she had looked at him like he was the most interesting thing she had seen in years. He dreamed about her sometimes. In the dreams, she always asked the same question. Do you want to die, human? He always woke up before he could answer. One night, Connor was docked at a refueling station near the edge of human space. It was a small station, quiet and lonely. Only a few ships passed through here. Connor liked it. He liked the silence. He was in the cargo bay, checking his supplies, when he felt it. A change in the air. The temperature dropped. The lights seemed to dim. He turned around. She was there. Valeria Cross stood in his cargo bay like she belonged there. Her silver hair glowed in a low light. Her red eyes fixed on him with that same intense stare. She wore different clothes this time. No cloak. Just simple dark clothing that fit close to her body. Connor reached for his plasma pistol. That will not work on me, Valeria said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. I did not come here to fight. Then why are you here? To talk. Connor did not lower his weapon. His hand was shaking slightly, but he kept it pointed at her chest. Archons do not talk to humans, he said. This one does. Valeria moved closer. Not fast, not threatening. Just slow and careful, like she was approaching a wild animal. You interest me, Connor Hayes. He blinked. You know my name? I know many things about you. I know you were born on Station 12. I know your parents died when you were young. I know you have been flying cargo ships since you were 16. I know you have never killed anyone, even though you carry that weapon everywhere. Connor felt cold. She had been watching him, studying him. For 3 weeks, she had been following his every move, and he had not known. What do you want? He asked. Valeria stopped a few feet away from him. Up close, she looked different than before. Tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. Her skin was paler than he remembered. My people are dying, she said simply. Connor lowered his pistol slightly. Whatever he expected her to say, it was not that. Dying? A plague has spread through our feeding colonies. The creatures we rely on for blood are getting sick. Their blood has become poison to us. Many Vethrani have already died. Many more will follow. I am sorry to hear that, Connor said carefully. But what does this have to do with me? Valeria looked at him with those red eyes. There was no anger in them now, just something that looked almost like desperation. Human blood, she said. Your species carries something in your blood. Antibodies, proteins, things that can help us survive until we find a cure. Your blood can save my people. Connor felt his stomach drop. You want to hunt humans for blood? No. Valeria shook her head. I want an alliance. The word hung in the air between them. Alliance. Humans and Vethrani had been enemies for generations. They had fought wars. They had killed each other. The idea of working together seemed impossible. You are joking, Connor said. I never joke about survival. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She held it out to him. This contains everything, she said. Medical research, technology blueprints, defense systems, things that could advance human civilization by decades. I offer all of this in exchange for help. Connor stared at the chip. He did not take it. Help how? Voluntary blood donation. Your government could set up programs. Humans who choose to give blood would be compensated. No hunting. No killing. Just a fair exchange. And you expect humans to trust you? Valeria smiled slightly. It was a sad smile, No, that is why I came to you. Connor was confused. Me? I am nobody. I fly cargo ships. I have no power. You stood before me without fear. You looked an Archon in the eyes and refused to kneel. That takes a certain kind of person. A person others will listen to. She pushed the chip toward him again. Take this to your leaders. Tell them what I have told you. Let them decide. Connor looked at the chip for a long moment. Every smart part of his brain said to refuse. This was dangerous. This was crazy. Getting involved with Vethrani politics could get him killed. But then he looked at her face. He saw the tiredness in her eyes, the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was trying to save her people, just like any good leader would. He took the chip. I will take it to Earth, he said. But I cannot promise anything. They might say no. They probably will say no. Valeria nodded slowly. That is all I ask. A chance. She turned to leave, then stopped. She looked back at him over her shoulder. You asked me before if begging would save your life. I did not answer honestly. She paused. The truth is, I was not going to kill you. Even before you spoke, something about you stopped me. What? I do not know yet. Her red eyes met his green ones. But I intend to find out. Then she was gone. She moved so fast that Connor could not follow. One moment she was there, and the next she had vanished into the shadows of his ship. Connor stood alone in the cargo bay, holding the data chip in his hand. His heart was beating fast. His mind was spinning with questions. What had he gotten himself into? He looked at the chip again. The fate of 2 species might be sitting in his palm. A cargo pilot from Station 12, holding the key to peace between humans and vampires. It was ridiculous. It was impossible. It was probably a trap, but as he walked back to the cockpit and set a course for Earth, Connor knew one thing for certain. He was going to try anyway, because that was what humans did. They tried, even when it seemed hopeless, even when the odds were against them. They kept trying until something worked, and maybe, just maybe, this time it would. Earth was nothing like Connor had imagined. He had seen pictures all his life. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. But standing on the planet for the first time felt different. The air smelled fresh. The sky seemed endless. He understood why humans fought so hard to protect this world. The meeting took place in a tall building in the capital city. Connor sat in a small room with bright lights and white walls. Across from him sat 5 of the most powerful people in human space. The Council of Earth. They did not look happy to see him. Let me understand this correctly, said the woman at the center of the table. Her name was Director Kate Morrison. She had gray hair and sharp blue eyes. You want us to give our blood to vampires? That is not exactly what I said, Connor replied carefully. Then explain it again. Connor took a deep breath. He had been explaining for 2 hours now. They kept asking the same questions. They kept looking at him like he was crazy. The Vethrani are facing a plague. Their food sources are dying. Without blood, they will die too. But human blood can help them survive. He placed the data chip on the table. In exchange, they offered technology that could change everything. Better medicine, faster ships, stronger defenses. Director Morrison picked up the chip. She turned it over in her hands. And you believe them? I do not know, Connor admitted. But I think it is worth exploring. If this is real, it could end centuries of conflict. If it is a trap, we lose nothing by investigating. The council members looked at each other. Connor could see doubt in their eyes. Fear too. The Vethrani had been the enemy for so long. Trusting them felt wrong. This Archon who contacted you, said a man on the left. His name was Senator Paul Graham. He was old and spoke slowly. Valeria Cross, She is one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. She has killed more humans than we can count. I know. And you trust her? Connor thought about the question. He remembered the way Valeria had looked at him on Vethros Prime, the tiredness in her eyes on his ship, the desperation in her voice. I think she is telling the truth about the plague, he said. I think she genuinely wants to save her people. Whether that makes her trustworthy, I cannot say. But she did not have to come to me. She did not have to offer anything. She could have just taken what she needed by force. Why did she not? Asked another council member. Because she thinks there is a better way. The room fell silent. Director Morrison stared at the data chip for a long time. Finally, she looked up at Connor. We will analyze the information on this chip. If it checks out, we will send a diplomatic team to open negotiations. She paused. You will be on that team. Connor blinked. Me? I am just a cargo pilot. You are the only human who has spoken to a Vethrani Archon and lived. That makes you valuable. The director's eyes were hard. This is not a request, Mr. Ace. This is an order. Connor wanted to argue. He wanted to say that he was not qualified for this. He was not a diplomat or a soldier or a scientist. He was just a man who flew ships and delivered boxes. But he thought about Valeria again. He thought about the look in her eyes when she said her people were dying. Fine, he said. I will do it. 2 months later, the negotiations began. They met on a neutral space station in the gap between human and Vethrani space. Both sides brought guards. Both sides brought weapons. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Connor stood near the door, watching. He was not supposed to speak unless asked. His job was to observe and report, to be a bridge between the two sides. Valeria entered with 3 other Vethrani. She wore formal clothing now. A long dark dress with silver patterns. Her hair was pulled back from her face. She looked regal and powerful. Their eyes met across the room. Valeria nodded slightly. Connor nodded back. The negotiations were hard. Both sides argued about everything. The humans did not trust the Vethrani. The Vethrani did not trust the humans. Every word was analyzed. Every offer was questioned. But slowly, very slowly, progress was made. The blood donation program was the hardest part. Many humans refused to give blood to vampires. They remembered the old stories. The hunts. The deaths. Giving their blood felt like giving up. Connor spoke at one of the sessions. He told them about his meeting with Valeria. He told them about her desperation. He told them that not all enemies had to stay enemies forever. Fear is easy, he said. Trust is hard. But if we never try to trust, we will be fighting forever. Is that what we want? To pass this war down to our children and their children? Or do we want to be the generation that finally found peace? His words changed minds. Not everyone, but enough. On the other side, Valeria faced her own challenges. Many Vethrani hated humans. They saw them as food, not partners. Some of the other Archons called her weak for seeking an alliance instead of war. One night, assassins came for Connor. He was sleeping in his quarters when the door exploded inward. 3 Vethrani rushed in, their fangs gleaming in the darkness. Connor reached for his pistol, but he was too slow. One of them grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back. Traitor lover, the vampire hissed in his ear. You die tonight. Connor struggled, but the Vethrani was too strong. He felt the fangs getting closer to his neck. He closed his eyes and waited for the end. It did not come. There was a sound like thunder. The Vethrani holding him screamed and fell away. Connor dropped to the floor and looked up. Valeria stood in the doorway. Her eyes were blazing red. Her hands were covered in black blood. The 3 assassins lay dead on the ground behind her. Are you hurt? She asked. Connor shook his head. He could not speak. His heart was beating too fast. Valeria moved toward him and helped him to his feet. Her hands were cold but gentle. "They were from the Shadow Court," she said. "Vethrani who opposed the alliance. I should have expected this. How did you know they were here?" Valeria looked at him with those red eyes. "I have been watching you. Ever since we started the negotiations. I knew someone would try to hurt you. You have been protecting me?" "Yes." Connor did not know what to say. He stood there, looking at this ancient creature who had saved his life. She was a monster by human standards. A killer. A predator. But right now, she just looked like someone who cared. "Thank you," he said finally. Valeria nodded. "Do not thank me yet. The negotiations are not over. There will be more attempts. On both of us." She paused. "But I meant what I said before. I intend to find out what makes you different. And I will not let anyone stop me." She turned and walked away, leaving Connor alone with the bodies of his would-be killers. He looked down at his shaking hands. He had almost died tonight, again. But somehow, that was not what stuck in his mind. What stuck was the way Valeria had looked at him. Like he mattered. Like his life was worth protecting. It was strange. It was confusing. It was probably dangerous, but Connor found himself smiling anyway. The negotiations continued for 6 more months. 6 months of arguments and compromises. 6 months of long days and longer nights. 6 months of learning to see the enemy as something else. Connor worked harder than he had ever worked in his life. He read reports. He attended meetings. He translated between the two sides when words failed. Somewhere along the way, he stopped being just a cargo pilot. He became something more. An ambassador without a title. Valeria worked just as hard. She fought her own people to keep the alliance alive. 3 more assassination attempts came. 1 on Connor. 2 on Valeria herself. They survived them all. During the long months, they spent more time together. At first, it was just work. They would review documents late at night. They would discuss problems and solutions. They would argue about small details that seemed important at the time. But slowly, the conversations changed. One night, they sat in Valeria's quarters on the neutral station. The room was dark, lit only by a few red candles. Valeria did not need much light to see. Connor had learned to adjust. "Tell me about Earth," Valeria said. She was sitting near the window, looking out at the stars. "I have never been there." Connor thought about his first visit to the planet. The fresh air. The endless sky. The feeling of standing on real ground instead of metal floors. "It is beautiful," he said. "Green and blue and full of life. The humans there do not know how lucky they are. You were not born there." "No, I was born on a space station. I grew up between the stars." Connor smiled slightly. "I always dreamed of seeing Earth. When I finally did, it was everything I hoped for." Valeria turned to look at him. The candlelight made her eyes glow like embers. "Vethros Prime used to be beautiful too," she said. "Before the wars. Before the plagues. There were forests that stretched for thousands of miles. Rivers that glowed silver in the moonlight." She paused. "I have not seen those things in centuries. They are all gone now. I am sorry." "Do not be. It was not your fault. My people did it to ourselves. We took too much. We killed too carelessly. By the time we realized our mistake, it was too late." Connor was quiet for a moment. He had never heard a Vethrani speak this way. They were supposed to be monsters. Cold and cruel and without feeling. But Valeria sounded almost human. "Is that why you want this alliance?" he asked. "To save what is left?" Valeria nodded slowly. "I have lived for over 400 years, Connor. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched my people make the same mistakes over and over again. She looked at him with tired eyes. I am tired of war. I am tired of death. I want something different for the generations that come after me. That sounds very human. Perhaps. Valeria smiled slightly. Or perhaps I have just been alive long enough to learn what really matters. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and cold. You confuse me, Connor Hayes, Valeria said eventually. How so? Your species is fragile. Your lives are short. You burn so quickly, and then you are gone. And yet, you fight as if you have nothing to lose. You love as if you have forever. You hope even when hope makes no sense. She shook her head. I do not understand it. Connor laughed softly. Neither do I. But that is what makes us human, I think. We know we are going to die, so we try to make every moment count. Valeria considered this. Perhaps that is what I saw in you. That first night on Vethros Prime, when you looked me in the eyes and refused to kneel. I was terrified. I know. I could hear your heart pounding. I could smell your fear. But you stood there anyway. That takes a certain kind of strength. Connor felt his face grow warm. He was not used to being praised, especially not by an ancient vampire queen. Can I ask you something? He said. You may ask. I may not answer. That night, when I was injured during the third assassination attempt, you healed me. You drank my blood. Valeria went very still. Her red eyes met his double quotes. Yes. What did it taste like? For a long moment, Valeria did not answer. She seemed to be searching for the right words. Like fire, she said finally. Like sunlight and starlight mixed together. Your blood carried something I have not tasted in centuries. Life. Pure burning life. She paused. It was the most beautiful thing I've experienced in a very long time. Connor did not know what to say. He sat there, looking at this creature who had been his enemy and was becoming something else entirely. Is that why you saved me? He asked quietly. Valeria shook her head. No, I saved you because you matter. Not just to the Alliance. Not just to your people. You matter to me. She stood up and walked toward him. I have lived for 400 years, Connor. I have had lovers and servants and enemies. But I have never had a friend. Not a real one. She stopped in front of him. Her face was close to his. He could see every detail of her pale skin, every shade of red in her eyes. You are strange and fragile, and you will die in a heartbeat compared to me. But you are the most honest person I have ever met. You do not try to impress me. You do not try to use me. You just talk to me, like I am a person. Connor reached out and took her hand. It was cold, like always, but it felt right somehow. You are a person, he said. You have been a monster and a queen and a killer. But underneath all that, you are just someone trying to do the right thing. Same as me. Valeria looked at their joined hands. Something shifted in her face. Something old and guarded seemed to break apart. The treaty will be signed tomorrow, she said. After that, I will return to Vethros Prime. You will return to your cargo routes. We may never see each other again. Is that what you want? No. Her voice was barely a whisper. But what I want does not matter. I am an Archon. I have responsibilities. Connor stood up, still holding her hand. He was close enough now to feel the cold that radiated from her body. Close enough to see the loneliness in her eyes. What if you did not have to choose? He asked. What if there was a way to have both? Valeria looked at him with something like hope. It was a strange expression on her face. Like she had forgotten how to wear it. What are you suggesting? I do not know yet. But I have learned something over these past 6 months. Nothing is impossible. Not really. We just have to be stubborn enough to keep trying until we find a way." Valeria laughed. It was a real laugh this time. Warm and surprised and almost human. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Connor Hayes. Probably both." She squeezed his hand gently. Her red eyes were bright in the candlelight. "Then we will find a way," she said. Together. Outside the window, the stars continued to burn. The universe was vast and cold and full of dangers. But in that small room, two people from different worlds had found something rare. A connection. A possibility. A beginning. Tomorrow, the treaty would be signed. Tomorrow, history would change. But tonight, they just sat together in the darkness, holding hands like old friends. And for the first time in a very long time, neither of them felt alone. The signing ceremony took place exactly 1 year after Connor first crashed on Vethros Prime. The coincidence was not lost on anyone. Thousands of beings gathered on the neutral station to witness history. Humans stood on one side. Vethrani stood on the other. In the middle, a long table held the documents that would change everything. Connor stood near the front of the human delegation. He wore formal clothes for the first time in his life. A dark suit that felt strange on his body. He kept pulling at the collar. Valeria entered from the other side of the great hall. She looked magnificent. Her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style. Her dress was blood red with gold patterns. The crown of an archon sat on her head. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Valeria smiled slightly. Connor smiled back. Director Morrison stepped forward to represent humanity. Valeria stepped forward to represent the Vethrani. They shook hands carefully. Neither one flinched. "We are here today," Director Morrison began, "to end centuries of conflict, to build a bridge between our peoples, to choose peace over war." She spoke for several minutes about the history of the conflict, about the lives lost on both sides, about the hope that this treaty represented. Then Valeria spoke. "My people have lived for thousands of years," she said. Her voice carried across the hall without effort. "We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have been predators and prey. We have made terrible mistakes." She paused. "But we have also learned. We have learned that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. We have learned that taking without giving leads to emptiness. And we have learned that even the oldest enemies can become the closest friends." She looked directly at Connor as she said the last words. The crowd followed her gaze. Suddenly, everyone was looking at him. Connor felt his face burn. He was not good at being the center of attention. "This treaty exists because of one man," Valeria continued. "A human cargo pilot who crashed on our world by accident. He could have run. He could have hidden. Instead, he stood before me without fear and spoke words of truth. He reminded me that courage comes in many forms. And he showed me that humanity is more than just prey. You are partners, allies, friends." She turned back to the crowd. "Today, we signed the Hayes Cross Accord. It is named after the two people who made this moment possible. The human who refused to kneel, and the Archon who learned to listen." The documents were signed. First by Director Morrison, then by Valeria, then by representatives from both governments. Each signature brought applause from the crowd. When it was over, the two sides mixed together for the first time. Humans and Vethrani talked carefully, nervously. Some shook hands. Some just stared at each other. But no one fought. No one ran. It was a beginning. Connor found Valeria standing alone near a window. She was watching the crowd with something like wonder on her face. "You did it," he said, walking up beside her. "We did it." She turned to look at him. "This would not have happened without you, Connor. You believed when no one else would. I believed in you." Valeria was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cold, as always, but her grip was gentle. "Come with me," she said. "There is something I want to show you." She led him through the station to a small private room. It was empty, except for a table in the center. On the table sat a small silver knife and 2 crystal glasses. "What is this?" Connor asked. "A tradition." Valeria picked up the knife and turned it in her hands. "Among my people, when 2 souls are bound by fate, we mark the occasion. An exchange of blood. A promise that cannot be broken." Connor looked at the knife. His heart was beating fast. "You want to share blood with me? I want to make you my partner. My equal. The first human to ever be considered family by a Vethrani Archon." She paused. "It is a lot to ask. If you say no, I will understand." Connor thought about everything that had led to this moment. The crash landing on Vethros Prime, the cold streets and the red lanterns. The question that had changed his life. "Do you want to die, human?" He had not died. He had survived. He had done more than survive. He had built something new. "Will this turn me into a vampire?" he asked with a small smile. Valeria laughed softly. "No, but you will live longer. Your body will heal faster. You will be able to see in the dark like we do." She smiled back at him. "You will also have to put up with me for many more decades than you probably expected. That does not sound so bad." Connor took the knife from her hands. He looked at the sharp edge for a moment. Then he drew it across his palm. Blood welled up from the cut, bright red in the dim light. Valeria did the same. Her blood was darker, almost black. They clasped hands. Their blood mixed together. Something strange happened. Connor felt warmth spreading through his body. Energy. Strength. It was like being filled with light. When they separated, the cuts on both their hands were already healing. "It is done," Valeria said. Her red eyes were bright. "You are part of my family now. My blood runs in your veins. Nothing can change that." Connor looked at his hand. The skin was smooth again, as if the cut had never existed. "How do you feel?" Valeria asked. "Different. Good different." He looked up at her. "Like I belong somewhere for the first time in my life." Valeria moved closer. She was tall enough that she had to look down slightly to meet his eyes. "You do belong, Connor Hayes. Here, with me. With this future we have built together." She leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. It was a strange gesture. Intimate but gentle. Connor closed his eyes and just let himself feel it. Outside, the treaty was being celebrated. Humans and Vethrani were learning to trust each other. The galaxy was changing, but in that small room, 2 people stood together in silence. A human who refused to kneel. An Archon who learned to hope. They had started as enemies. They had become allies. Now they were something more. What happens next? Connor asked softly. "I do not know." Valeria pulled back slightly to look at him. "But I know we will face it together. Whatever comes. Whatever challenges await. We will not be alone." Connor smiled. It was the first time he could remember feeling truly happy. "I can live with that." They walked out of the room together, hand in hand. The crowd parted to let them pass. Humans and Vethrani alike stared at the strange sight. A cargo pilot and a vampire queen. The 2 people who had made the impossible happen. Someone started clapping. Then others joined in. Soon, the whole hall was filled with applause. Connor squeezed Valeria's cold hand. She squeezed back. A year ago, he had crashed on a vampire world and expected to die. Now he was standing at the center of history, holding hands with an Archon, watching 2 species take their first steps toward peace. The universe was strange. It was dangerous. It was full of surprises, but it was also full of possibilities. And as Connor looked at the crowd around him, At the hope on their faces, he knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself once again, not through war, not through conquest, through courage, through compassion, through the stubborn refusal to believe that anything was impossible. Somewhere out there, among the distant stars, a new dawn was rising, and Connor Hayes, the cargo pilot from Station 12, would be there to see it.